Don't fight in the north or the south. Fight every battle, everywhere. Always. In your mind.
For centuries, our families fought together against their common enemy, despite their differences, together. We need to do the same if we're going to survive, because the enemy is real. It's always been real.
When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives.
Hey guys, Pete here, and there it was, the new trailer, the winter is here version, and man, I've been hyped up for like the last 5 hours since that thing came out. Alright, so I'm going to break it down scene by scene. I'm going to do it spoiler free in that I'm only going to talk about what we see, not what we learned before the season. So please be respectful in the comments here. Anybody that's followed my stuff and all the other stuff out there knows what a lot of this is. But don't ruin it for other people who are just avoiding spoilers. Nobody cares if you know exactly what I'm talking around whenever I'm avoiding saying something here or there, so don't blurt it out in the comments and ruin it. I would definitely do a spoiler-related version of this. If you're interested, you can comment that, but for this one, let's just make it fun for everybody. So we start off with Sansa. She's walking back from the Weirwood at Winterfell. This could be exactly after we saw her there in Season 6, or it could be at a different time. We hear a voiceover, and it's Littlefinger, and he says, "Don't fight in the north or the south. Fight every battle everywhere in your mind." Then we see a shot of the gate at the wall opening, which we've seen in previous trailers, but this time we get the big payoff I've been waiting for a long time. My man Bran Stark and Mira Reed have arrived, of course. We know Jon is probably not there, but this Stark, who's gone beyond the wall, way to the north, has made his way back, and he's one step closer to home. After that, we see a shot of the king in the north himself swing around. He has skins on, and the background definitely looks like Iceland, which means he's probably north of the wall. I can't make out who the hooded character behind him is, so let me know if you guys figured out who that was. We get an outside shot of King's Landing, followed by a shot of Queen Cersei inside. She kind of does a half turn like Jon did in the previous clip, and I noticed after watching the whole thing, this is about all the Cersei we get, so maybe we'll get another trailer later that'll revolve some more around her, although the first one did in the first, so whatever. Daenerys is indoors at Dragonstone, and we see this shot of her dragging her hand across the map table that we caught a glimpse of in the HBO Spain trailer. There's a quick flash of a beach landing or possibly someone pushing off. It's hard to make out who this is, even when you lighten it and zoom in. It looks like it could be a couple of things that we saw during filming, but I don't want to speculate any further than that. We do see something later with Theon that might be related to this, but I'm really not sure. Next we see Arya on horseback, which looks like the same bit from the really short clips that we got from HBO way back when. She's riding up and is looking towards something. We don't really know what it is, but she has a look on her face for sure, and it could very well be Winterfell, although there is nothing to say that that is the case. We see Jaime walking along the top of a castle wall. There's a dead body as he rounds the corner, and when we see the higher wall in front of him, it seems pretty obvious that he's in a different location than the castle that was in the HBO Spain trailer. In that trailer, we saw the Lannister troops clashing with the Unsullied, but the Lannisters were in a defensive position. The banners indicated that was most likely Casterly Rock, and the walls there were smooth looking. We also didn't see Jaime there at all, and he would generally be in King's Landing with Cersei anyways, so here he is on what looks like the offensive inside a castle we haven't seen in any other seasons, or at least it doesn't look familiar to me. Since I already know where he is for the most part, I'm not going to say, but and I don't want to spoil it for anyone else. I'll just leave it at that. Then we see Littlefinger creeping again. He's sort of hiding in a little space there, like a little weasel. I realize that this shot is kind of annoying to me. We've seen it a couple times, and where is it? Could this be what led to what looked like a choking from Jon Snow in the first trailer? I don't know. I mean, it's mysterious. It should be at Winterfell, but it's just one of those kind of shots where it doesn't give you anything to work with. It's Littlefinger being Littlefinger, and yeah. We see a quick shot of someone sharpening a blade. Not much to go off information-wise there. And then we see Daenerys walking alone on the beach by Dragonstone, and we get a shot of a cave, and the second voiceover starts. I alluded to this in my breakdown for the Spain trailer. She was in a cavernous looking space with a torch. That could be related to this. Anyways, the voiceover this time is Jon Snow, and he says, "For centuries our families fought together against their common enemy." While he's talking, we see Daenerys come across one of Stannis' banners, which she pulls down. Then we get our first dragon shot of it's all three of them flying towards the castle. Jon continues, "Despite their differences, together, we need to do the same if we're going to survive because the enemy is real." We get a sequence of shots of the Targaryen faithful. We see Tyrion looking grave on the cliffs outside Dragonstone. Theon in the dark near flames on the deck of a ship. And Greyworm on a small boat approaching a rocky shoreline. After that we see Brienne and Pod in the yard at Winterfell. Then we cut to a shot of the Hound in the heat of a fight. The cut is really quick here, but he looks bundled up with snow-capped mountains behind him. The very next scene is an Unsullied hitting the ground in a completely different location. We can see that he's been hit by an arrow, and the field around him is littered with them. We saw archers in the HBO Spain trailer, and we see them later here, but this is probably not the same scene as that. This is probably at Casterly Rock as well. After that, we get this incredible looking Dothraki charge into waiting shields and spears. You can clearly make out lions on the wooden shields, but I guess that isn't a big surprise. Go back to the beginning and watch this little exchange in full speed again after this is over, and just think about filming that. Like, they're running horses full speed into waiting shields. And not to be outdone by the ground battle, we get this crazy looking shot of the battle at sea with what looks like Yara jumping off the top deck. Then we see the shot that I was just talking about of the Lannister archers, and we can see that was Jaime behind them in the last trailer, and that he's also got Bran at his side. And some serious backup and equipment behind that. It looks like they're moving along the road and taking up a defensive position. People who followed spoilers with me last year know exactly what's happening here, but I am not going to get into that. Then we get a sequence I totally missed on the first watch. It's a flock of ravens. Below them is what looks like a gang of whites, but you can't really tell for sure. And then it cuts straight to the Night King, so all of this might actually be intertwined, but you can't really say for sure since things are generally jumbled up in the trailers. Either way, we go from the Night King straight to Bran, who has his eyes rolled back in his head in full skin change mode. And here's another twist on that. I was looking at Twitter while I was making this, and I saw that History of Westeros posted that the Eye of the Raven switches from black to blue. And I noticed there was a little bit of a flash there, and I thought it was just Bran controlling the Raven, like it was there so that we could tell that Bran was controlling it. But with the blue, that makes it seem like it might be a battle in the bird's mind between the Night King and Bran. And like I said, I didn't notice that at all. I saw that History of Westeros posted that on Twitter. But that's an interesting thought at the very least. Then it cuts to him in a wheelchair by a weirwood tree that sure does look like the one at Winterfell. So yeah, he's got a chair. There appears to be someone looking after him, which we know maesters do that sort of thing in this system that they got going there. In this shot, we see what looks like a maester from behind. And this maester looks like it could definitely be the one who was at Winterfell with the Boltons, Maester Wolkan. Now, you might think, well, why would they be with them? You know, the maesters they don't belong to any house. They just take care of the people who live in the house. Does that make sense? So even though he was the maester when the Boltons were there, when the Boltons are gone, he would still be the maester when the Starks took over or whatever. So I'm going to say this is Bran at Winterfell. This is Brandon Stark sitting by the weirwood tree at Winterfell. Or it could just be Bran and some guy standing by a tree somewhere else. We hear Jon's voice again say it's always been real. And then we see Beric Dondarrion with a sword that bursts into flame. I would guess this is a trick like we've seen in the past, so don't get all Azor Ahai crazy here, but it looks cool as hell and really complements the heavy furs he's wearing for something that looks like a trip north of the Wall. After that, we get a shot of the Greyjoy fleet approaching King's Landing. I would assume that this is the replacement Greyjoy fleet that Euron built after his niece and nephew took the ones that were there. He's rolling into the capital, most likely to offer services there for a price. We don't see his crow's eye sigil, but at the same time, at the end of season 6, when we saw Daenerys' fleet, they weren't flying Greyjoy sails. You know, they were all basically flying the Targaryen sails. After that, there's a few shots of the Targaryen Unsullied in a sequence. We see them in formation. We see them opening the gate in what looks like Casterly Rock from the Spanish trailer. There's a very interesting shot that's quick of Daenerys. It's sort of slipped in there. She's outside of Dragonstone, and it looks like she's receiving someone. She turns slightly, and it seems like it might be a really important meeting when we see this again as the whole scene. After that, Jaime's riding his white horse in the aftermath of what appears to be the very same battle where we saw him and Bronn and the archers. Certainly not clear who had the upper hand here, but it's obvious an insane amount of carnage went down. We get a straight shot on of Jaime, who is he's hauling ass is what he's doing. He's got a very determined look on his face while he does it. Then we see a massive explosion on the deck of a ship, and can you believe we are just 1 minute and 15 seconds into this trailer at this point? Tormund is fighting for his life, but who he is fighting against isn't exactly clear. This appears to be related to Jon and Beric, but we only see his opponent is wearing black. Is it a white? Or is it a white of a fallen Night's Watch brother? I honestly don't know, even though I followed all the spoilers, because if this is what I think it is, there were really no photos of other cast members at this location. From there, we see Dothraki doing what Dothraki do, charging on horseback, but this time they have dragon air support along with them. If we think about all the fire Jaime was just sort of surrounded by and sort of hauling ass away from, I think there's a real chance that those two things could be connected. After that, we see Theon and Yara side by side at night looking up. I think it's safe to say that the look on Yara's face is one of grave concern, and it looks like something flaming might be headed their way. To back this up, we see a fireball crash into a ship's sails in the very next scene. Then we see Lannister soldiers setting a line behind their shields with spearmen behind them. Again, we see Jon but this time he's on top of this rock outcropping sort of thing. And for some reason, he looks like kind of casual up there. I mean, he might be stunned or he might be overwhelmed, but the whole thing looks confusing to me. The bodies below seem to be advancing in his direction. And if I didn't know better, I would say it looks like they're about to overwhelm and erase him from existence. But it's just a quick shot, so it's not, I don't know. I could be reading into it too much. There's a little fast shot of Missandei giving Greyworm a full-blown, full-on mouth kiss. And then another quick look at Tyrion pondering something on the countryside. Things get a little tricky here. We get some warmer weather shots. The first looks like King's Landing at the Dragon Pit site, and it looks like the Hound drawing his sword, but it also looks like he is wearing no pants, or maybe shorts or a skirt. I don't know. It's weird. He's probably got like light colored pants and it's just the way the sun is, but it's really out of place in relation to all the other stuff that we're seeing where people are wrapped up to be in the snow. Then another little sneaky one they squeezed in there. It's a shot of Jon and Davos, where they're definitely not in the north. Jon's wearing his king gear with Davos by his side, but that's really all that we get. Then we see Jon in the very far north fighting one of the White Walkers. Not a white, not the Night King himself, but one of his main homies, like, you know what I'm talking about. After that, we see Dothraki riders straight up riding through flames. Like, what is going on here? I'm not really sure. I don't think they're on fire. I think they're just crashing through, but it's a pretty intense looking scene. Then we see what looks like Theon to me on shore at Dragonstone dropping to his knees. It could be somebody else. It looks like Theon though, with his haircut. He only has a small landing craft that we can see in the picture. And then we see his evil ass uncle Euron smashing someone in a one-on-one battle, smashing them to death. And then it cuts to Drogon, who is checking someone out at Dragonstone. We can see the castle behind him, and he's looking at something. He looks curious more than I'm gonna, something like I'm gonna catch you on fire or eat you. But how can you really tell with the dragon? He doesn't look that big at first, and then you look and you kind of see that Daenerys is on his back, and she looks really small. From there we go way back up north and see the boys circling up in the snow again. And just when you think, why are they doing this? Again, we saw this already. It goes to whiteout, they disappear in the snow, and we hear a new voiceover from Sansa. She says, "When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives." And with that, they could have really have just ended it right there, but it doesn't do that at all. As she's saying it, we did see that it looks like Jon, like a slumped over injured Jon Snow, escaping on horseback. You can't really tell for sure. It could be any of the people that were wrapped in furs, but my guess would have been Jon, since he's the important guy. And then when she's finished talking, we see a fully upright Jon Snow hacking an adversary down with Longclaw. And this must be earlier, obviously, if that was him on the horse, because he looks like he's just taking care of business. Notice the fire in the snowy background here, and just think about that for a moment. Everything else we've seen has been deadly, ice cold everywhere, and then here, there's some people standing around. It's not really clear whose side they're on, but above them, there's quite a bit of fire, and that had to come from somewhere. And then think about how Jon looks there flexing him after he kills that guy as the trailer ends. So yeah, this was awesome. I haven't been so hyped up for Game of Thrones as I was at this time last year. There's really a lot going on. It's already a long video that I have going here, and all I did was talk about the scenes without any real speculation. As mentioned, this one seems to blend just about everything, but there are some key people that we don't see much of anyways. And then, I was thinking about it while I was watching. With only 7 episodes, I think we got a bit of probably most of them in here. And we saw 3 separate battles. We saw an image of Jon where he looks like he's far from the north, and we saw images of him where it looks like he's way up above the wall in the north. The biggest moment was for me was first seeing Bran and Mira outside of the wall, and then that was quickly outdone by him sitting in the chair by the weirwood in Winterfell. Yeah, that's just, think about it. Think about how long ago in the story he took off. And now, he had a whole season where he wasn't even in it. He was just under the tree, we didn't see him. And now he's back at home, and those ravens were obviously, they had something to do with him, which I like that quite a bit. All of the battle stuff looks insane. I don't think anybody's going to get bored watching these episodes. You know, there's been a lot of talk about Euron. I made a Euron video earlier and like hardly anyone watched it. There was not much interest, I guess, but there's been a lot of these articles going around about how he's going to be so crazy. I don't understand how his storyline really fits into doing much. I mean, obviously we saw him on the deck killing somebody, and that appears to be in a battle with Yara and Theon on the other side. And then we see the ships coming up to King's Landing, but where has he got all this time to be crazy? I guess on his ship as they're going? I don't know. But yeah, I'm hyped. I'm going to quit rambling at this point because the video is too long already. Leave any questions you have in the comments. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. I try to answer. If you got specific spoilery stuff, ask me and I will paste the link in for one of the spoiler videos that it talks about that. Like I said, please don't ruin it for everybody. There's a time and place for everything, and this is just a place to enjoy how awesome that trailer was after this long wait that we've had. Alright guys, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.